Dilly dilly, arguably the most memorable phrase from Super Bowl 52, where the Philadelphia Eagles defeated the New England Patriots this past February. Hi, I'm Rebecca, and I'm here to share my results from a research study that I did on alcohol and advertising. The overall objective of this research was to see if the messages that alcohol has and the messages that we receive, are they conveying to us to drink more? Studies suggest that there is an association between exposure to alcohol advertising and subsequent alcohol consumption. In a study done in 2005 called Alcohol Marketing and Young People's Drinking, a review of research, the article indicated that alcohol marketing is having an effect on young people's drinking. The article examined the influence of alcohol advertising on young people and shows that there's a correlation between advertising and alcohol purchases and consumption. Another study showed that anti-alcohol intervention programs for adolescents to develop negative attitudes towards alcohol advertising, that these are strategies and techniques that the alcohol advertisements do not use to reduce the drinking. Another interesting study, Alcohol Messages in Primetime Television Series, said that these messages contain programming that served a source of information about drinking. Therefore, it was crucial to objectively monitor and analyze television programming. Alcohol messages were coded based on presentation, and the analysis reveals that mixed messages about alcohol do exist. Alcohol advertising promotes drinking both inadvertently and indirectly and directly. For this research, I surveyed 30 individuals to see how they received these messages. Were they being swayed in any way to make purchases? Were they swayed in any way to drink a certain brand? And the participants that I surveyed were ages 20 to 62. They answered 10 survey questions with a yes/no answer, and this was a basic quantitative study. The data that I analyzed concluded that alcohol advertising does not have an influence on one's decision to consume alcohol. However, the data also concluded that if alcohol advertising was eliminated from television, the commercials would not be missed. Here are the questions that were asked in the survey. Have you ever consumed alcohol? In the past week, have you seen more than 5 commercials advertising alcohol? Do you know someone with an alcohol problem? And if you do, is it a family member or is it a friend? Do you have children? Do you talk to your children about alcohol? And do you believe that alcohol has an influence on purchasing? Another question I had on the survey was, have you ever purchased alcohol because of the commercial? And the last question on the survey said, do you believe that alcohol commercials should be banned? After analyzing the data, I wanted to focus on 3 questions. Do you know someone with an alcohol problem? This was pretty alarming to me. 100% of my participants do know someone that has an alcohol problem. Some were family and some were friends. Also, another question that I felt was important was, do you believe that alcohol is glamorized in the commercials that we see? And 70% said yes, that they do believe that it's glamorized. 60% said they had never purchased alcohol because of a commercial. And do you believe that alcohol commercials should be banned? 73% of my participants said that they would not be missed, and they believe that it would be fine if we weren't seeing advertising for these commercials. The reason that I find this very important is because alcohol is the #2 killer in the United States. The number of deaths by are overwhelming with tobacco, alcohol. It's the most popular and accessible drug on the market. And in 1971, cigarette commercials were taken off of television, and there was a decline in the use of cigarettes. So why isn't the same being done for alcohol commercials? Whether we want to admit it or not, studies are clear and suggest that there is an association between exposure to alcohol advertising and the subsequent use of alcohol. The more alcohol ads kids see, the more alcohol they would consume. One interesting fact that I learned through my research is that alcohol is a self-regulating It's a self-regulating industry. Manufacturers have their own guidelines, such as limiting ads to programs that have mostly adult audience, which is 70% adult. But alcohol companies don't always follow their own guidelines. Alcohol is forbidden in the industry code for advertising between 6 and 8:30 p.m. to minimize the exposure to children. However, what was interesting to me is that during this past NBA season, during the playoffs, every 5 minutes, there was an advertising for alcohol. And some of those games were at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, which for some of us, we are watching the games with our family and with minors. Alcohol is also a big business. If advertising did not work, billions would not be spent on alcohol campaigns on TV. The industry spends 89% of its advertising dollars on television, according to Citigroup. Last quarter, the alcoholic beverage industry spent $421 million on advertising, up to 26% compared to the same time last year. And beer brands were far and way the biggest spenders. And this is pretty evident when the NFL Super Bowl game is being brought to us by Bud Light. You know, when we watch commercials, I asked my participants if they even realize that alcohol is never seen being consumed. Like, you will never see someone actually drinking in a commercial for alcohol. It is usually everybody's having a good time, everybody's having a great time, but nobody's actually consuming the product. In my conclusion, I believe that advertisements do promote drinking, both directly and indirectly. So it is important that we look at it closer. I think more studies should be done on the fact that alcohol does affect many people, and it's as important as cigarettes. It's interesting because I researched AA meetings, Alcoholic Anonymous meetings, and you can go to a meeting Monday through Sunday. There's several meetings in every area, in every city, and we don't need that for cigarettes. I did have a couple of my participants say to me that if it were up to them, they would rather be smokers than drinkers, because if you are an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. And cigarette smoking, you could quit cigarette smoking. Alcohol does affect us mentally, physically, emotionally. And for me, I felt that this was a very important research study to do. I myself, I have a family member, a very close family member, that battles alcoholism and started drinking at a very young age. By the time he was 17 years old, he already was an alcoholic. And I think that is something that we really need to look at more seriously. Advertising on TV is not helping us not drink less, or it's not helping us drink less. However, if we got rid of alcohol advertisements, if you want to go buy a bottle of wine, if you want to go buy beer, if you want to go buy liquor, you're still going to do that. You're not going to do it because you're not seeing commercials. So I feel like a further study needs to be done on alcohol and how it affects us. And maybe legislation needs to take place. Even though my study showed that people are kind of like oblivious, they're kind of like numb to it. They don't
see the importance, I don't think, because they don't see it, because some of these commercials are very good. Some of them are very emotional. Some of them make you feel good. And I don't think people are seeing the effects that they have because they're so used to it. It's part of our everyday life. I could be watching a TV program, a movie, like on a girls' channel, Bravo, I guess you would say. And I see advertisements for girly drinks. When I'm watching a football game, a basketball game, I'm seeing many advertisements for beer and liquor. We have celebrities advertising it. And, you know, we have to take responsibility for that. We have young people watching these advertisements, and it's having an effect. It really is. What we must know about alcohol commercials is that they are harmful, and something must be done to stop the advertisement. Well, I thank you for sharing and being with me and spending some time and listening. I hope I was able to give you some insight. I hope that my research was very superficial. It wasn't in-depth enough. But if I were to do the research again, I probably would research the effects and the deeper meaning of how we see alcohol commercials. Thank you.